Hello everybody. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new. I'm Tamara. Come spend a typical rainy day here with us at the campground. It has been raining for several days now, and I thought I would share a full day of meals with you guys. So come join us. We're going to start out with breakfast. Now, this one was good, but it definitely needed some adjustments, and I'll kind of talk to you guys about this. I had seen a biscuit and gravy casserole online, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do my own version of that, which y'all know I'm really bad about not following recipes, and I just go with the flow, whatever my heart feels like in the kitchen. So that is what we did for most of today. Supper as well, I didn't really follow a recipe. But breakfast, I normally don't fix breakfast for myself personally, but whenever Winston is home or, Luke's home, of course, I fix breakfast for them and I do eat it. After I cooked up my pound of ground sausage, I did leave the grease in there, and now I'm adding in a packet's worth of country gravy mix. I make mine homemade. Absolutely love it. I will have that video and recipe linked down below for you guys if y'all have missed it. That was one of my favorite homemade swaps that I made at the beginning whenever I was starting to cut out a lot of the, processed foods and try to switch to more from scratch and homemade meals for my family. And having that in the pantry is so convenient because you can quickly make a country gravy in no time with already having that seasoning already in your pantry. So once you add that in, you're going to mix it together, cook out that flour for just a second, and then you're going to add in your milk that it calls for. And then I just stir all that, and then I have the heat down low, and I'm just going to kind of let that simmer and let that all marry together and let that gravy get thick. For the biscuit portion on the top of this casserole, I am just using my favorite recipe, the 2-ingredient biscuit dough recipe. I'm just using it, and I'm just going to add some like little dollops all on the top of the casserole. Now, two things with this. If I was cooking in a normal oven size oven, I would have just left that biscuit and gravy mix in that pan, topped it with the biscuit, and then put it in the oven that way. But this pan does not fit in my air fryer toaster oven, so I did have to move it to a different dish, and then I added the biscuits on top. A few things that I would do different. I would either make an extra batch of just the country gravy without the sausage on the side and be able to pour that over the top, or I would do half of this biscuit recipe on top. We really liked it. Winston said it was delicious, that he would want me to make it again, but after we kind of talked about it, we thought that the sausage gravy to biscuit ratio was off, so it either needed less biscuits or we just needed some extra gravy on top. We didn't think it needed any extra sausage, but we personally like our biscuits and gravy kind of more saucy, so it was good, but next time I would make those changes. So here I'm just scooping some of that on top of there as even as I can, and then I'm just going to get this in my air fryer. I have it preheated to 350, and then I'm just going to let this bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. Here's what it looks like right out of the oven. This was good, but like I said, we will make a couple changes for next time, but we'll definitely be making this again. For lunch, we decided to make a loaf of pizza bread. Really simple. I am just making a batch of one of my favorite recipes. Y'all know this is like the softest, fluffiest recipe ever. So I'm making a full batch of this bread dough, and then I'm going to take and divide it in half. I'm going to do half for the pizza loaf, and then the other half I'm just going to bake a regular loaf of bread. I have shared this recipe 1,000 times. It is my all-time favorite, and I will have it linked down below. Plus, I will add my changes to it. I use different oil. I do use active dry yeast. I don't use steam when I bake it, but it is literally the best bread, the best and easiest and simplest. I feel like this is the perfect beginner recipe. Now, if you don't have a bread machine, don't worry. I do have a recipe video showing you guys how to do it in like a stand mixer, or you can easily just use a bowl and use your hands. But I'm going to mix it up in my bread machine. This will take about an hour and a half to run its cycle, and then we can put together the loaves. After I let the yeast bloom for about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and add that into my bread machine. Now, that is just warm water, whatever sweetener that you're using, and then your yeast. I'm using just cane sugar, and I'm using active dry yeast, and I just put that in my warm water. You want to make sure that your water is not any warmer than 120 because it can kill your yeast. But you just want to let it bloom and make sure that it's active, nice and bubbly, and it's ready to do its job when you add all the other ingredients together. So I'm going to add that into the bottom of my bread machine. Now, every bread machine is going to tell you how to like add the ingredients in differently, so just look for your instructions. For me, it was kind of trial and error because I got my bread machine at Goodwill, and so it didn't come with a book. But I find that if I add the wet ingredients first and then do the dry ingredients on top, it mixes a lot better. And remember to keep your salt away from your yeast because it can also kill your yeast. So what I like to do is I like to add my bloomed yeast in, and I will add my oil in, add my flour in, and then I'll add the salt on top, and then I'll let it go in the bread machine for its dough cycle. Half of the recipe I just shaped to a loaf of bread, like I said, and then this half I'm going to add some pizza sauce, just a little bit, and then I'm going to add cheese. I normally add pepperoni, but I was out and I didn't realize it, so we just added black olive, and then I'm just going to roll it up like a cinnamon roll, tuck in the edges, and crimp the back, and then sit it on the pan. And I'm going to cover these and let these do a final rise for 30 more minutes, and then I will get them put into my preheated air fryer, and I have it preheated at 350. When the pizza bread came out, I just rubbed it down with some butter, sprinkled it with some garlic powder and some Italian seasoning, let it cool a second, and then I served this with some extra pizza sauce on the side. This was so good, and of course you can change out any kind of pizza toppings that you want, and I love making these for a quick, simple lunch. Once the loaf of bread was done, I rubbed it down with butter as well, and then I just let it completely cool before I cut it. I will show y'all the inside of the bread and how soft and fluffy it is at the very, very end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But we're going to sit down for a little bit, chill, watch another movie, and we're going to play a couple rounds of Uno. Several hours have passed and we have just been rotting on the couch, watching movies, doing absolutely nothing. I did manage to shower, but there's finally a break in the rain, so I'm going to open up the windows, open the door back up, and just let us get a little bit of fresh air. One of the hard parts about, being in the RV when it is raining or bad weather is you are literally just trapped inside. You don't have like a regular porch that you can just go sit under or stand under just to get a little bit of fresh air. Like, we do have an awning on the RV, but if there's, bad winds and heavy rain, you can't have it out because it could potentially, cause damage to your RV. So you are literally trapped inside for however long it is raining. So we took that little break from the rain to our advantage and we went and got some fresh air. For supper tonight, I wanted to make a delicious, hearty, healthy soup. That's what my soul said it needed, and so that's what I cooked. I just used up stuff that I had around the house, stuff that was in the pantry, stuff that was in the fridge that I just needed to get used up. And this ended up turning out so good. So I started out with a half a pack of bacon. I could have done a fourth of a pack, but I love me some bacon around here, so I ain't mad about it. But I did a half a pack and I just kind of cut that up, and then I'm just going to render that down and let that cook through till it gets crispy. I did take some of that bacon grease out. I would just say, take some out if you feel like you need to. If not, then leave it. It's yummy either way. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my carrots and add in my peppers. If I had an onion, I would have chopped some of that up and added that in as well, but I didn't, so I just added in some onion flakes that I had in my pantry. Like I said, this was one of the perfect just use it up soups. You could literally change out any vegetables that you wanted to. You could change out the proteins if you wanted to. This is just a basic, yummy, hearty soup. I'm going to let those veggies cook for a few minutes to get tender, and then I'm going to add in some garlic, let that cook for a minute or two to get fragrant, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my chopped broccoli. For the liquid, I started out with 2 cups of turkey stock. I thought I had chicken on hand, but I didn't, so turkey is what I used. It still was delicious. I started out with 2 cups, but I did end up adding the rest of the quart in just because I needed some extra liquid in there. And then I did 1 cup of milk, and I ended up adding 1 cup of cream. That ratio to the the protein and veggies ended up being the perfect consistency. For seasonings, I added in some turmeric. I did some garlic powder, onion powder, oregano, salt, pepper. Just season with your heart. Use what you got on hand. But I love cooking, especially this time of year. It's about to be cold and flu season, and I'll definitely try to keep those seasonings, in my system. Turmeric is really good for you. Garlic's also good for you. And this was just a really good, hearty, healthy, soup to eat on a nice cold fall evening. But I added my chopped chicken in, and then I did end up adding in about a half of a quart jar of some home canned potatoes. I just did half a jar, and I ended up just chopping those up a little bit, and then I added those in. But after I added in the seasonings, I just gave everything a stir, and I let this come up to a simmer, and I just taste tested it to make sure that the seasonings were there and that the broccoli was cooked all the way through. The broccoli and the carrots were the ones that would take the longest to cook through. Once those were cooked through and it was cooked to my liking, I wanted to thicken it up just a little bit. As you can see, it's just a little bit thin. So my favorite way to thicken up like a creamy soup is with instant potatoes. So I added a little bit of instant potatoes in there just to thicken it up just a little bit to get it to my liking, and supper was ready. This was absolutely delicious, exactly what my soul needed. It was so good. Now, y'all already know Winston's not going to eat this. We always have him taste test, but if it's not something that he likes, we don't make him eat it. So I ended up fixing him a bologna sandwich. So since I cut into the bread, I wanted to show y'all how soft and fluffy this bread is. Y'all have got to give this bread recipe a try. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for spending a cold, rainy day with us here at the campground, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.